Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys for joining me here for yet another at-home video. I'm currently home getting ready for tonight's watch party. It's going to be awesome, guys. Steelers versus Buccaneers, Acrisure Stadium. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight, guys. It's going to be me, Ponzi, Coop, the whole gang's going to be there. Super Chat giveaways. It's going to be a ton of fun, so if you want to come watch the preseason game with us, we're going to be going live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time tonight for an hour of pregame coverage, followed by live play-by-play, and then instant post-game analysis as well. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss any of our live watch parties this year. We'll be going live for every single Steelers game this season, and we also have the largest Steelers watch parties anywhere on YouTube. So if you guys want to click that subscribe button, feel free to do so. We would love for you guys to join our family today. But for today's video, guys, I want to talk about 5 storylines that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on tonight as the Steelers take on the Buccaneers. And, last week we did players to watch. This week, I'm really looking forward more towards certain storylines as opposed to just certain players. I think that first preseason game, you want to see certain players and, do certain things. And I think that, players to watch list was more appropriate. I think heading into preseason week 2, really most of the players that you have in that players to watch category in week 1 are pretty much the same. So we're switching it up a little bit this week, going with 5 storylines to watch out for tonight. So we'll start here with the number 1 storyline that I'm watching tonight, which is how does this starting offensive line look? Can they do it again? Last week versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, starting defensive line with guys like Josh Hines-Allen, guys like Trayvon Walker, 2 really good edge rushers. Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones, 2 players that this team is heavily relying on this year in order to have success on offense, really look good, and they looked the part, and they didn't give up a single pressure versus that first team defense there in Jacksonville for the first 2 drives. So that is really good news right there. And, hopefully they can do it again tonight against Vita Vea and the guys they got there in Tampa Bay, Hassan Reddick and the like. So Todd Bowles, the head coach, said that all their starters will be playing pretty much the first quarter tonight. So we'll see how many drives the first team offensive line get. We'll see how they do run blocking wise. We didn't get to see that a whole lot in week 1. I think there was just 3 rushing attempts when they were out there on the first 2 drives. They looked okay in that phase, but it'll be interesting to see if they can do it again tonight, where they can protect Mason Rudolph, give him time in the pocket, and do the things that they need to do in order to protect the quarterback and create run lanes for the running backs. Speaking of running backs, the number 2 storyline that I'm going to be watching tonight is Kaleb Johnson. Can he bounce back? And, part of this is married with the offensive line. Can, especially that second team offensive line unit create run lanes for him? They weren't able to do that. Last week, Kaleb Johnson had 20 yards rushing, but 25 yards after contact. So he actually had more yards after contact than total yardage. Which obviously means that offensive line was not doing their job last week for the most part. But Kaleb is somebody that has been saying this week that, it was a little bit fast for him last week, and he's still getting used to it. I really expect a good workload for Kaleb Johnson tonight, guys, at least a half where he is the lead running back, and maybe even 3 quarters. With Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell in the room, and those guys pretty much being slated as the RB1 and then third down back heading into the season, I would give Kaleb a lot of leash here, and I would give him a lot of opportunities tonight. Because you want him to get those reps, you want the game to slow down for him, and you want him to be able to show what he can do. You want him to prove that he should have a larger role in this Steelers run game from week 1, and if he can do that, great. But if not, at least he's getting these reps out there, so the Steelers know what they have to work with right away when we get to week 1, and how big of a role he should be having once we get to that season opener versus the New York Jets. So I expect Kaleb to get a pretty heavy workload tonight, just like he did against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll see how he plays. Hopefully he can get more than 20 yards on the ground, and hopefully his offensive line can do a better job of blocking for him. Okay. Another thing that I'm going to be watching out for with that first team unit is Roman Wilson. Yet again, does he continue to shine? He has had a couple of really good weeks in practice. His connection with Mason Rudolph has been really nice throughout training camp. His connection with Aaron Rodgers is starting to grow. And even though Rodgers won't be out there tonight, I want to see Roman Wilson get a couple more downfield receptions. I want to see him get more than just one catch down the field and then a screen reception. I thought he showed some good things last week, but I want to see more from him tonight. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on him as a run blocker, because it's very possible that he is asked to be, the second leading snap getter at the wide receiver position this year. Last year, that role was filled by Van Jefferson, because Calvin Austin III isn't much of a run blocker. Therefore, Arthur Smith doesn't love using him on these condensed kind of 12 personnel looks where he asks the wide receiver to be a blocker. But Roman Wilson is somebody that in college was one of the best run blocking wide receivers in the nation. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he can do as a run blocker tonight as well. And then moving on here to Yahya Black, we only saw 10 snaps from him in the preseason opener, because it sounds like he was dealing with a little bit of an elbow issue, but he looked really good in the 10 snaps that he did have against Jacksonville, and we'll see if he gets more snaps tonight. Maybe we don't see him at all, depending on how bad his injury is. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Yahya Black can look like, because he looks like somebody that can really contribute to this defensive line right away. He's had a really good camp. I think he's exceeded expectations relative to where maybe the team was kind of ready to slot him in to start the season. But it seems like he's got a chance to move up the depth chart before the start of the year and really be a good rotational piece on early downs for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the final thing that I'm going to be watching out for tonight, guys, is the UDFAs, of course. Once we get into that second half and we get towards the end of the game, last game it was actually pretty entertaining. Skylar Thompson was slinging it. You had Keyshawn Williams, you had Rock Taylor, you had Max Hurleman, and I really like the Steelers UDFA class at the receiver position. I think that these guys all have their skill sets, and I think there's a reason why Skylar Thompson's stat line was as good as it was, because when they're going up against third and fourth string backups, these guys are better than that. And, I'm really excited to see Skylar Thompson play tonight. I'm excited to see him throw the ball to these players. I thought Lou Nichols showed some good stuff last week in the preseason game as well. I'm excited to watch him play. I'm excited to see Sebastian Castro, who has had a little bit of a quiet camp. He's had little flashes here and there, but if he wants to make this roster, he really needs to step up and make some plays here. So, the UDFAs, which guys are going to make their case? Which guys are going to make it tough on Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan to decide who's going to make this 53-man roster? So once we get into that second half, really going to be watching out for these UDFA wide receivers that have really been playing well in camp to this point, as well as guys like Sebastian Castro and others. Really excited to see these guys play tonight, guys. But once again, we will be going live for our Steelers Talk Watch Party tonight. It's going to be an hour of pregame coverage, followed by live play-by-play for all 4 quarters, every single play, and then instant reactions and winners and losers list after the game is over. So if you guys want to check us out, we're going to be doing super chat giveaways and all that great stuff tonight as well. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we really do appreciate all of your guys' support. We will see you guys later tonight. Until then, guys, here we go, Steelers.